I will start this from the very scratch for you guys to understand how this works in a cloud kitchen. Like, how operations work and what is the, and I would broadly put all of this under an umbrella of operations because our operations manager also handles our store. So just to break it out to you guys, I will just help you and assist you with this. So to begin, like, once the setup is done, let's say you have a ready setup for a base kitchen and you have everything ready for a cloud kitchen to operate. What do you need? So let's say if you want a burger, let's say if you're making a burger out of somewhere, one very basic thing, there are a few basic things that you require. Could be buns, cheese, lettuce, your patties that go in the burger, and all of that put in place. So it is the base kitchen and it is the warehouse's operation here to order that. We have suppliers for everything. So let's say I have to order buns, I send it to my baker and they supply the buns to us. We need patties, we get in touch with our meat vendors, our vegetable vendors, and place orders for all the raw material which will go into making that patty, right? So once that is done, so how we do it in our company, which is Shepherd Foods, is um, we have a warehouse come base kitchen which operates on a hub. Our company operates on a hub and spoke model. So for all the four, five outlets that we have, the base kitchen supplies everything, all raw materials and semi-cooked products to the outlets. This base kitchen and warehouse is responsible for placing indents, which are orders to our suppliers. So let's say if today one of my stores in Greater Kailash in Delhi needs 100 buns, another one in Vasant Kunj needs another 100 buns. So the total indent placed at the base kitchen for that day will be 200 buns. These 200 buns, the order has to be placed to the supplier, right? The supplier in this case being our baker. The baker in the after the indent has been placed the next day, in the next 24 hours, our baker has to fulfill the indent. That is the equation that we work with our bakers on, our most of our vendors on, that you have to supply within 24 hours of you receiving the indent. Once that is done, they have they the supplier sends the what do you call your whatever material is required to our storage area, which is our warehouse, the company storage area, which is where we receive it according to the challan. From there, it is issued to the base kitchen because it is actually the base kitchen's job to send it to all the other outlets. So the semi-finished products, which are the buns, the patties, everything, like, whatever order we receive from the outlets is sent out to them. Now, based on that, how we do it is, let's say once we have we receive an order from Zomato, we receive it on our billing system. Okay, our billing system in this case is Paid Puja. That is the point of sale that we use. And once that order is received, we send the KOT to our kitchen. KOT is kitchen ordering ticket. The chefs make whatever is mentioned in there. All right. So let's say if there are two burgers, three pizzas, and two cans of Coke, it is the kitchen's team responsibility to complete and hand over whatever is in the ticket to the dispatch team. The dispatch team thereon checks the entire list. Okay, we've received the two pizzas, we've received the three, we've received the three burgers, and we've received two Cokes. Okay, once that is done, it is packed and given to the store management team. That store management team from there on, depending on whether it is Zomato or Swiggy's delivery or whether it is on our own delivery, we give it to the respective delivery boy or the delivery team, and then it is from there on delivered to the end customer. Hence it is not a very it is a four-step model that we follow. Step one being order generation, step two being completion of order, step three being dispatch, and step four being here the delivery, which is delivery to the end consumer.
In our supply chain, we divide the whole supply chain into three different parts. So if I talk about the three different parts, I guess you must have heard of it. That first one is called an upstream. Second one is your midstream, and then is your downstream. So yeah. So what is upstream? It's simply your when it comes to your exploration and production activities. That's what you call an upstream. When you decide, okay, this is where I can find oil, and this is where I'm going to dig a well and extract oil out of it. That's what you call an upstream. And similar in taking out oil. So what will happen when you take out oil? You need to transport it or store it. That's right. That's where your midstream, what we call midstream, comes into play. It's all about you can say it's all about transportation. And in oil and gas, the major transportation, yes, it's through your tankers, if you imagine, but major part of transportation is your pipelines, right? Imagine you dig a hole, dig a well, and wahan se you find out there's oil coming out of it. You cannot just take a tank there and fill it directly. So therefore, from a particular well, there's a lot of pipeline management, transportation management, and therefore, when in our industry, when we say 25% of our product cost comes from 25% of production cost is your transportation equals to your transportation cost, which is a very high number, which is not there in many other industries. And it's very well understood why is it, right? So yeah, now when we talk about downstream, there you can say to certain extent your other industry supply chain managements somehow are similar when it comes to specifically for downstream. For example, I took out crude, I transported to a certain refinery. What will they do? A whole refining out of it. A basic raw crude will be refined into your 5, 6, major 10, major consumable products. And when we talk about consumable products, now you can relate there your other supply chains can come into downstream as well. For example, when you talk about oil and gas, the major operation subjects, for example, you'll read, and which will come in handy for you in oil and gas industry will be your logistics management, warehousing. When it comes to warehousing, that means inventory management, and other apart from these two, other one will be your procurement. So these three are the crux of our supply chain. If you'll talk about the differentiations and how it's different, how other things come into play, a major difference, like if you talk about, will be a term which we call reverse production. What is so? Imagine you are into FMCG and you are preparing your some biscuits or some beverage. What you'll do, you'll take 4 or 5 raw materials, get into a production and make one finalized product. Now imagine same in oil and gas, how it's so opposite. Major product here is crude. You take out crude and then you refine that crude into 5, 6 different products. 1 to 5. That's how the difference comes. That's what we call reverse production. So therefore, a concept called entry barriers are very high in this industry, and that is why procurement becomes a very big factor. It is the place where we try to reduce cost and try add value to our that's where we contribute maximum to our value chain in oil and gas industry.
See, I mean, whichever product or whatever service you might be delivering, at the end of the day, the production of a service happens at X point in time and delivery happens at a Y location. Okay, you might be producing the service at the customer location, but then the entire mechanics of production needs to move to customer location.
Right.
Okay, while in a service industry, I won't say the supply chain is as gruesome as in a product industry, because there you have to physically transship the X product from location X to location Y. The supply chain management here gets transformed in a financial service industry, like such as insurance, gets transformed into a consumer experience management. Right? BFSI entirely is a heavily operation driven. Okay. This is an industry which is infested with paper and process. We are dealing with people's money. Everything has to have a trail, and when you have money, you have trust. Everything has to have a trail, and everything has to have tight-knit control mechanisms. Okay, we are also heavily guarded and I would say government controlled, if nothing, for a lack of better word. Okay, so in that sense, operations play a very strong role. Yes, our transportation pipe could be digital, which it is. Okay, a lot of tech enablement is possible and is happening. I think BFSI is at the leading edge of both technology consumption and production, because of when you are into a service delivery and if you want to standardize the experience, you got to use technology. But that does not takes away the fact that this is also one of the oldest industry, and that's the reason you have the most advanced, most legacy systems in this industry. I mean, no other industry I would have seen some 70 odd IT systems and 35 don't look eye to eye to rest 35 serving to the same customer. Okay, so yeah, there is lot which has been done. There is lot which desired left to desire to be done. But I would say it's a the operations job is pretty heavy, and they do a very thick job in terms of being able to pull through entire information and being able to productionize that service. Try and understand the delivery might be happening at the customer end, but wrapping up the entire service, even in real time or at a batch mode, happens somewhere in the back end. Okay, and that's what operations does. When you call up at a call center and when you dial up a USSD, think about very simple things. I mean, you do UPI, you do in insurance, you do a renewal premium. In a UPI, it's very easy. I mean, you are dialing up, scanning a code and being able to pay. But this money needs to get reconciled. Systems might be reconciling, but physical movement has to happen somewhere. And that's a pure play operations job. It's a IT maintenance job to maintain those servers. It is as thick a operations job as anything. When you apply for a renewal, the receipt has to be generated. The entire, yes, there are ITs partaking into the customer journey automation, but there still remains a huge load of manual interventions. Your underwriting IT only supports up to a level.